a very warm welcome. You're watching Gravitas with me, Molly Kampir. Let's get started. Our top story tonight on Gravitas is about US President Donald Trump's new mantra. He wants all or nothing in Ukraine. But what would that mean? Also, what are the implications? And was Zelensky set up to provoke Donald Trump? We delve into this and more in just a bit. And here's a look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. We tell you all about a plot to try and sell Israel's nuclear secrets to Iran and how the crackdown entailed. Is the United States in secret talks with Putin ally to revive the Nord Stream 2? We get you the bigger picture and why this matters. All this and more coming up.
Have our military equipment. This war would have been over in 2 weeks. In 2 days, they told us that in 3 days. Military equipment. This war would have been over in 2 weeks. In 2 days, they told us that in 3 days.
Our top story tonight on Gravitas focuses on Trump's new mantra for Ukraine. What is it, you ask? To put it simply, all or nothing. And after last Friday's heated discussion between him and the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in the Oval Office, one thing is absolutely certain. Trump does know how to get his message across. And what was his message that day? Simply put, Ukraine must sign the minerals deal that could end the war with Russia, or the US will pull its support. You're either going to make a deal or we are out, quote unquote. Those were his words. And since that meeting, just have a look at how things have shifted. Even though Europe pledged to defend Ukraine, aren't they now counting on America's backing? And Zelensky, he now says he is ready to sign the deal. He left the White House without signing on Friday. But here's the important question. Can the deal still go through? Also, is there still hope for the minerals deal to actually bring an end to the war? How does this impact the Trump administration's plans for Ukraine? Will Trump try to replace Zelensky? Will he send troops to Ukraine? As per the latest reports, strenuous efforts are underway to try to repair some of the damage caused by the very public fallout that happened on Friday, and to get Zelensky and Trump on the phone to attempt to salvage the relationship. European leaders are also urging and seeking to engineer a call between the pair, during which the Ukrainian president would express regret for how the meeting unfolded. In fact, already Zelensky says he can salvage the relationship with the United States. Listen in.
If we agreed that minerals deal with US, will be signed, from our side, we are ready to sign. I honestly think the United States will be ready as well. Maybe they need time to analyze some things.
Meanwhile, some of Trump's allies have suggested that Zelensky should step down or change stance. It is worth noting that there haven't been any discussions about who might do a better job, perhaps. But what Trump and his team do believe in is that Zelensky missed a huge chance to partner with the US. That was the guarantee that Zelensky was looking for, at least according to the Trump administration. Hours after the drama in the Oval Office on Friday, the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio shared his take during an interview with CNN. He explained that the deal Trump wanted Zelensky to sign would tie Ukraine economically to the US. He claims that was America's way of ensuring security, considering America's interest in Ukraine. The Trump administration feels that Zelensky put his country in a tough spot, missing a crucial opportunity for US companies to help Ukraine monetize resources like gas, oil, aluminium. But can we really blame Zelensky for wanting clear security guarantees after 3 years of the bloody war? When asked how Zelensky can actually mend the situation, many Trump officials reportedly have told American media that Zelensky needs to now make it clear that he wants a ceasefire, and it appears that they don't trust Zelensky to sign any agreement with Putin after everything that has happened. But despite doubts in Trump's team, Zelensky told Fox News' Bret Baier on Friday that he would negotiate with Putin, but continues to emphasize on the need for security guarantees. And according to media reports, the US made it clear that Trump wants an economic partnership before discussing security guarantees. As far as questions of sending troops is concerned, so far it seems discussions about troop deployment have not happened, but that has not stopped European leaders from suggesting the same. And French President Emmanuel Macron and UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer have reportedly been in talks with Trump about troop presence and security guarantees.
First, we will keep the military aid flowing and keep increasing the economic pressure on Russia to strengthen Ukraine now. Second, we agreed that any lasting peace must ensure Ukraine's sovereignty and security, and Ukraine must be at the table. Third, in the event of a peace deal, we will keep boosting Ukraine's own defensive capabilities to deter any future invasion. Fourth, we will go further to develop a coalition of the willing to defend a deal in Ukraine and to guarantee the peace.
But again, what will come of those discussions is the immediate question. Other reports say that the US weapon shipments to Ukraine are still happening, but new packages have not been announced yet. With $3.85 billion reportedly available for weapons from US stockpiles set aside for Ukraine. Will Trump decide to send this support? It's hard to say. Some say it's not likely, that there is no Trump will or can go to Congress to ask for more money for Ukraine, especially without securing a deal with Ukraine first. And the US State Department has around $1.5 billion in military financing for Ukraine currently under review. So what will happen to that funding? Under Trump, only Egypt and Israel have so far received waivers for military assistance. Clearly, the situation remains difficult for Ukraine. The road ahead for Zelensky is challenging now more than ever. And another question that is being asked is whether Volodymyr Zelensky was set up to provoke Trump on Friday. Just hours before the Oval Office clash that shocked the world, Republican Senator Lindsey Graham had allegedly warned Ukrainian President Zelensky not to take the bait and engage in an argument with Trump. Graham, who was part of a bipartisan group of senators that met with Zelensky before his meeting with Trump on 28 February, told reporters, I'm quoting, "I told him this morning, don't take the bait." Listen into this.
Complete, utter disaster. I've been to Ukraine 8 or 9 times since the war started. I understand the consequences of Putin's actions against Ukraine. I appreciate what the Ukrainian people have done. They fought like tigers. At the end of the day, I was hoping that this minerals deal, which would be transformative in the relationship, would go over well. I talked to Zelensky this morning. Don't take the bait. President Trump was in a very good mood last night. Somebody asked me, am I embarrassed about Trump? I have never been more proud of the president. I was very proud of J.D. Vance, standing up for our country. We want to be helpful. What I saw in the Oval Office was disrespectful, and I don't know if we can ever do business with Zelensky again.
Interesting words there, to say the least. Now, just for context, Graham, a long-time advocate for Ukraine, has now become a vocal critic of President Zelensky. In fact, he told the press on Friday that Zelensky must either resign and send someone else over for the US to continue supporting Ukraine. In response, the Ukrainian president delivered a sharp retort, telling the South Carolina Republican that if he wanted his opinion, he should consider moving to Ukraine and becoming a citizen. Shifting focus for now to the tensions in West Asia, a deadly stabbing attack at a transport station in Haifa in Israel has left one man dead and several others injured. Israeli police termed the incident as a quote-unquote terror attack and identified the assailant as an Israeli citizen and a member of Israel's Druze Arab minority who returned from abroad recently. Israeli security forces reportedly shot and killed the attacker moments after the rampage, which unfolded at a busy transit hub. Remember, at least 14 people were injured after a vehicle rammed into pedestrians at a bus stop last Thursday. Israeli police had identified the attacker as a 53-year-old Palestinian from West Bank who lived in Israel. Meanwhile, in Gaza, tensions are rapidly escalating. An Israeli drone attack killed at least 2 people in Rafah, and firing from an Israel helicopter injured 3 others in Khan Yunis. On Sunday, Israel cut off the entry of goods and humanitarian aid into Gaza and moved military vehicles near the border. Israeli officials say this move is aimed at forcing Hamas to agree to a temporary ceasefire extension. Israel is reportedly pushing for a new 7-week ceasefire plan, during which Hamas would have to free half of the remaining Israeli hostages. And at the end of this period, if both sides reach an agreement for a permanent ceasefire, all remaining hostages would be released. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu credited the US envoy Steve Witkoff with drafting the new ceasefire framework, adding that more time is needed to bridge the divide between Israel and Hamas.
Hamas had also put forward positions for a permanent ceasefire that are totally unacceptable. Israel has decided to stop letting goods and supplies into Gaza, something we've done for the past 42 days. We will take further steps if Hamas continues to hold our hostages.
Meanwhile, Hamas called the aid blockade quote-unquote cheap blackmail and an attempt to derail the existing agreement. With Ramadan now underway, tensions are higher than ever. Palestinian families in Gaza are struggling to observe the holy month amid the widespread destruction. Netanyahu's proposal would extend the ceasefire through both Ramadan and the Jewish holiday of Passover, which ends on April 20th. Meanwhile, the United States is doubling down on its support for Israel. The U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has invoked emergency powers, in fact, to fast-track $4 billion in military aid. Washington's backing could reportedly embolden Israel to intensify its military campaign if talks collapse. But while all eyes are on Gaza, another crisis is brewing in the West Bank. Israel has been carrying out raids in the West Bank continuously for the past 42 days, and the situation there is reportedly worsening rapidly. In fact, experts are warning that if the situation spirals out of control, it could ignite a much larger war. And the sight of Israeli tanks rolling into Jenin, something that has not happened in 20 years, signals a dangerous new phase in this conflict. Tens of thousands of Palestinians have already been displaced, and with Ramadan underway, any provocation at Jerusalem's Al-Aqsa Mosque could reportedly trigger widespread violence. And experts have said that if the unrest in the West Bank escalates into a full-blown war, the consequences will be catastrophic. The fate of the region hangs in the balance. Whether this conflict spirals out of control or finds a path to de-escalation will depend on what happens in the coming days. We now shift our focus to an espionage plot that has left Israeli authorities scrambling for answers. Israeli police and security agency Shin Bet arrested an Israeli citizen who allegedly attempted to sell classified nuclear secrets to Iran. That's right, an Israeli man was caught selling nuclear secrets to Iran. Let that sink in. Israeli authorities reportedly apprehended a resident of southern Israeli city of Beersheba on charges of espionage. The suspect reportedly initiated contact with Iranian intelligence via social media platform Telegram, offering to sell sensitive information about Israel's Negev Nuclear Research Center, home to the Dimona nuclear facility. Israeli investigators reportedly found that the accused had carried out multiple missions on behalf of Iranian handlers, including photographing restricted locations and transferring data. According to Israeli police, the suspect allegedly represented himself as someone with direct access to Israel's nuclear program, hoping to profit from selling classified data. Last month itself, authorities arrested the accused and disclosed that he had received a $1,000 payment in digital currency for his cooperation. In a separate but related case, Israeli security forces arrested a 26-year-old man suspected of spying on behalf of Iran. According to Israeli media, the suspect was instructed by an Iranian handler to spray paint specific locations in Israel in exchange for money. Investigators also discovered that his Iranian contact encouraged him to gather intelligence on military bases and even the residence of Shin Bet chief, although the accused reportedly never followed through on these. But you see, these are not isolated incidents. Last month itself, Shin Bet and Israeli police arrested 2 IDF reservists accused of selling sensitive military intelligence to Iranian operatives. One of the suspects, a former member of Israel's Iron Dome missile defense unit, allegedly provided highly classified information, including a video showing the system in action. According to reports, this security breach occurred just weeks before Iran launched a massive missile strike on October 1. That attack involved more than 180 ballistic missiles, with several reportedly striking Israeli air bases and other sensitive military sites. Over the past year, Tehran has reportedly been increasingly trying to recruit Israelis, often luring them with financial incentives. In December last year, authorities detained nearly 30 individuals suspected of involvement in Iranian espionage operations. Many of these cases reportedly began with seemingly insignificant and small tasks that gradually evolved into full-fledged intelligence gathering and even assassination plots. In October 2024, 7 individuals were arrested for allegedly gathering data on 2 IDF bases that later came under attack by Iran and Hezbollah forces. Serious questions are bound to come up. How many more Iranian spies are still operating undetected? Why has Israel failed to prevent such moves? And before we go on, let's just tell you what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. We tell you how China is intensifying pressure on Taiwan and what such moves could entail. Can AI replace human beings? Can it replace the human touch? We tell you how employers are relying on personality tests. At a time when CVs might be becoming unreliable, we tell you why. We also tell you about a safety-first smartphone unveiled for children, what's behind this and why should it even be used. While the world is questioning whether Trump is siding with Russia over Ukraine, something interesting has been brewing behind the scenes. The US has been secretly talking to an ally of the Russian President Putin to revive the Nord Stream pipeline, reportedly. And reports say that an old friend of Putin with connections to the Trump administration has been holding secret discussions to get the Nord Stream pipeline back up and running. And guess what? It would involve American funding. Yes, you heard that right. A former spy and close associate of Putin is said to be working on restarting the Nord Stream pipeline to Europe with support from American investors. Now, this is a surprising move indeed that shows the extent of Trump administration's reconciliation attempts as far as Moscow is concerned. Matthias Warnig, a former East German spy who ran Nord Stream 2's parent company until 2023, is reportedly behind this effort. Warnig has reached out to the Trump team through American businessmen, reportedly trying to negotiate a solution to the war in Ukraine while strengthening economic ties between the US and Russia. Some top figures in the Trump administration are reportedly aware of this plan to involve American investors and see it as a way to rebuild relations with Russia. And there's even a US-led group of investors that have outlined a deal with Gazprom, that Russia's state-controlled gas company. Recently, European leaders have also become aware of talks surrounding Nord Stream 2. They are concerned, especially since one of the two Nord Stream 2 pipelines was damaged in sabotage attacks in September 2022, which also affected the older Nord Stream 1 project. The second Nord Stream 2 pipeline still exists but has never been used. Explosions on the 26th of September 2022 had damaged the pipelines, which were built to carry Russian natural gas to Germany under the Baltic Sea. The damage added to the tensions over the war in Ukraine as European countries basically moved to wean themselves off Russian energy sources. And now, who was responsible for the sabotage remains a mystery. Investigators have been tight-lipped about their findings so far, which then brings us back to what's happening today. This is why European leaders are allegedly concerned about this secret US-Russia talks. In theory, this plan to get the pipeline up and running with American funding could give America considerable influence over energy supplies to Europe, especially after many EU countries decided to basically reduce their reliance on Russian gas due to the war. However, there are significant challenges to making this happen. It's not that easy. First of all, the US would need to lift sanctions on Russia, and then Russia would have to agree to resume gas sales it cut off during the war. Plus, Germany would need to allow the gas to flow to European buyers. But you see, the timing of these secret talks is also important. The Trump administration is racing to finalize a peace deal with Russia, which has excluded European countries and Ukraine, raising concerns in European capitals about a potential US agreement with Moscow that might jeopardize their safety. And Trump has indicated that if a peace agreement for Ukraine is reached, there could be great economic cooperation with Russia. And Putin also suggested that US companies are already interested in potential deals that could come from such an agreement. And here's why this is important as well. During his first term, Trump made strong efforts, remember, to stop the Nord Stream 2 project and encouraged Germany, in fact, to buy American liquefied natural gas instead. However, now that he's back in the White House, he seems to have changed his stance completely. The proposed deal involves American investors stepping in to save Nord Stream 2 from bankruptcy, giving them a stake in the company. And this could allow them to profit if Russian gas starts flowing to Germany again, provided that sanctions are lifted after a ceasefire in Ukraine. And it would also give the US significant control over Germany's energy supplies. Recent reports have indicated that negotiations in Switzerland have been brokered by influential parties, which just tells us how the dynamics have shifted around the pipeline. And most importantly, between the US and Russia. On to Taiwan now, which has been increasingly facing pressure from China, and according to a report now by the Taipei Times, China's military expansion in the southern part of the first island chain could be a cause for major concern for Taiwan, as it poses a significant danger to Taiwan's liquefied natural gas or LNG supplies. As per a defense analyst, in fact, not just that. In a bulletin published on the National Defense and Security Research's website, the analyst indicated that China's military buildup could potentially disrupt China's energy sources. And the signs, it seems, are proving to be more obvious than ever. Our next report telling you more.
China's Taiwan ambitions are getting more pronounced day by day. Beijing issues a stern warning saying, "We will come and get you sooner or later."
The Taiwan question is purely China's internal affair, which brooks no foreign interference. The US attempts to contain China with Taiwan, conniving the DPP authorities' risky and provocative acts for their separatist attempts. This strategy will ultimately backfire. The DPP authorities have an illusion of soliciting US support for separation and rejecting reunification through force. They have seriously miscalculated the situation, the public opinion, and the difference in strength, which is reckless and extremely dangerous. We warn the DPP authorities that holding the tide with a broom will only end up in self-destruction. Sooner or later, we will come and get you.
The strong statement comes as China expands its military exercises around Taiwan. The presence of military jets and naval ships has Taipei on the edge. Taiwan, a democratically governed island that China considers part of its territory, has repeatedly expressed concern over increasing Chinese military activity, including its recent drills off Taiwan's southwestern coast, which Beijing has described as routine. Taiwan's military says it detected 45 aircraft, 14 Navy vessels and 1 ship around its shores. Taipei says that in total 34 jets and ships operated by PLA crossed into its waters and airspace, just in 24 hours. The Taiwan Defense Ministry accuses China of becoming the biggest troublemaker in the international community. According to a report in Taipei Times, China could potentially disrupt Taiwan's energy sources. Since last year, China has fortified its position in the southern area of the first island chain, roughly referring to the chain of islands encompassing Japan, Taiwan, portions of the Philippines and Indonesia. Taiwan has long relied on US support to deter Chinese aggression. The return of Donald Trump to the White House has introduced a new era geopolitical uncertainty. The American president is taking a relook and redefining traditional ties. Listen in to what Trump said when asked about will he defend Taiwan.
China will never take Taiwan by force.
I never comment on that. I don't comment on anything because I don't want to ever put myself in that position. And if I said it, I certainly wouldn't be saying it to you. I'd be saying it to other people, maybe people around this table, and very specific people around this table. So I don't want to put myself in that position.
The Trump administration, on the other hand, also unfroze about $870 million in security assistance programs for Taiwan. Taiwan has been left guessing as it keeps a close eye on Chinese actions.
In this day and age, chances are you cannot imagine your life without a mobile phone, perhaps not even a day. But like anything, the excessive use of mobile phones comes with its share of negatives, like exposing children and teens to a vast array of disruptive content, which also comes with major safety risks. A new smartphone has now been unveiled that strives to keep children safe. The question is how? We get into that in just a bit. Phone maker HMD, the firm behind modern Nokia devices, has created the phone. This is in response to new research from the firm that found that more than half of children had been contacted online by strangers. The study, which included a survey of 25,000 children and adults in the UK, US, Germany, India, Australia, the UAE, reportedly found that 1 in 3 children had been encouraged to take conversations to private messaging apps. Not just that, almost 40% of children had been sent sexual or violent content. 52% of them felt they were addicted to their screens. This is seriously concerning and sparks conversations about such harmful effects on both the physical and mental well-being of youngsters. Well, as for the firm, it has not just flagged the problem, but also proposed a solution in the form of child-safe phones. What exactly do they offer? Well, primarily, these phones contain built-in controls that necessitate parental approval for accessing contacts for messaging and calls. Alongside, they come with a location tracking feature as well that enables parents to receive alerts when children leave designated safe areas. The child-safe phone, as it's being called, also comes with something called a stay-focused mode, which can block app access during school hours or bedtime to reduce distractions. Basically, the phone is giving parents a lot of control on what children can or cannot do with their mobile phones. But is this really enough to keep children out of harm's way is the immediate question. As per reports, children's smartphone market size was valued at $5.1 billion in 2022 and is projected to reach $13.8 billion by 2030. Growing, in fact, as of 2023, data from the Federal Communications Commission, around 95% of teens in the US own a smartphone. The rampant use of phones, including social media and gaming apps, can lead to anxiety, depression, sleep disturbances among young users. Plus, this also breeds grounds for cyberbullying, which can lead to psychological distress and mental health issues. Add to that reduced physical activities, which can trigger health issues as well. Therefore, realistically speaking, it's not actually practically possible to weed out all the ills at once. However, it might be better to be safe than be sorry in a way. The reason why new dedicated phones for young users perhaps are becoming increasingly common is that only last year, a US firm launched its child-safe smartphone in the UK for the first time, which places a special parent-controlled operating system on top of the existing software of a Samsung or Google smartphone. Having said that, tech can only do so much, which warrants parents, caregivers, educators to play a crucial role as well in promoting responsible mobile phone use among the young. And that aside, having open communication as well as setting boundaries should be duly encouraged to help reduce the ill effects of phone use. Remember, be it navigating the real or offline world, charity begins at home. A suspected car ramming attack in the city of Mannheim in Germany has left at least 2 people dead and several others injured. The police arrested a 40-year-old German suspect shortly after the incident. However, authorities have not released any other details about the suspect or a possible motive. The suspected attack comes in the middle of carnival celebrations there, with parades, food stalls and crowds filling up the streets. Eyewitnesses say a car suddenly drove into pedestrians, leaving chaos and panic behind. Heavy police presence is now in place. Officers have urged the people to avoid the city center as they carry out their investigation. And this incident follows another car ramming 18 days ago in Munich, where 28 people were injured. In that case, police said the suspect may have had an extremist background. Investigators there are working to determine if this was an accident or a deliberate attack.
We can also confirm that 1 person has been arrested as part of the investigation and the manhunt. We are unable to say whether there were several perpetrators. We have activated the Cat Warn app, Note, a warning system app, and classified the area in Mannheim city center as a dangerous place. So we are asking all residents and visitors to stay at home and evacuate this area.
A similar incident occurred On the 1st of January 2025, during New Year celebrations in America's New Orleans, French Quarter, a truck driven by an attacker plowed into a crowd on Bourbon Street, resulting in the deaths of at least 15 people and injuries to over 30 others. The assailant, who had expressed allegiance to the Islamic State, was killed in a shootout with the police following the attack. Have you ever been mocked or know someone who has been mocked because of their accent? Maybe they've been told that their accent is difficult to comprehend or deemed unsuitable. Well, when it comes to getting rid of an accent, a French company seems to have cracked a code. In fact, it is also helping Indians sound less Indian. But why exactly would that happen? The world's biggest call center operator, Teleperformance, is reportedly using the help of AI to neutralize Indian accents for Western customers. The company said its AI software on phone calls helps soften English-speaking Indian workers' accents, and that too in real time. Not just that, the AI feature is also set to cancel background noise using a technology that filters out disruptive sounds like office chatter, sirens, etc., for calls to be held seamlessly. The company claims such a feature has been innovated to enhance clarity, make conversations more understandable, and improve customer interactions. Due to the rise in AI chatbots to address multiple customer queries at the same time, call center companies have been under immense pressure to evolve, and with a base of around 90,000 employees in India and tens of thousands in other countries, this French company caters to customers in the UK, including the government, the NHS, and other prominent platforms as well, like Vodafone and eBay. But what's the wider messaging behind its AI feature? The company says the product has been developed with the goal of reducing accent-based discrimination. But the real question is, does it reduce it or widen the gap even further? With several social media users insisting that they would like to chat with the real person with real accent, instead of what they call an AI-generated voice, while others have raised concerns against scamming due to lack of distinction from one voice to the other. Experts suggest, given the times, it's critical to find a middle ground between machine-generated enhancements and human interactions. Will more companies follow suit in the coming days? Can AI replace human beings? Will AI end up stealing your job? If one were to make a list of the most frequently asked questions in this day and age, this would definitely be high up on the list, very high up. After all, there is no running away from artificial intelligence. That's absolutely clear. It is increasingly making its presence felt in almost all aspects of our life. But again, can AI replace human beings? As it turns out, there are areas where human beings take the lead. For example, in hiring processes. How can AI possibly replace the human touch? To judge a candidate's personality, for example. Interestingly, employers are reportedly turning to personality tests as in this day and age when AI-generated applications are on the rise. Haven't we always considered a CV and cover letter as foundation stones as far as the hiring process is concerned? You would have probably never heard of someone getting hired without a CV involved in the process. As per this report, recruiters are ascertaining personal skills and behaviors as an additional measure as far as job applications are concerned. And such assessments can also help understand the applicant's genuine personality, measuring emotional perception, for example, or even assessing candidates on qualities that are actually required for that particular role. Such assessments can also help get rid of biases of those hiring. So to what extent can CVs be trusted? The typical CV and cover letter are reportedly becoming unreliable, and the shift towards this kind of assessment, where personal skills and behaviors are involved, reportedly is the result of a greater number of applications that have either been written using AI or even submitted by AI. So clearly, AI is being used to write out applications, and employers are trying to find ways to navigate this. Also, a CV cannot exactly be a standalone tool to assess the suitability of a candidate, especially if AI is being used to write out CVs. The possibility of CVs not standing out and being similar is higher. So if you want to stand out, AI might not be a reliable friend after all for your application process. Of course, undeniably, there are pros that come with automation in recruitment. But there's also this side to the story, once again highlighting how AI is a double-edged sword. We now turn our focus to a massive blow to Indonesia's workforce. Shritex, once Southeast Asia's textile powerhouse, has shut down reportedly, leaving more than 10,000 workers without jobs. And reportedly, this is not just another factory closure. It is the collapse of an industrial giant that once supplied military uniforms to NATO and the German army. On Saturday, operations at Shritex came to a halt, and earlier today, a court-appointed administrator said that talks are underway with potential investors to take over the company's assets. But for the nearly 11,000 employees who have now been laid off, the future remains absolutely uncertain. Because you see, Shritex wasn't just any company. It was an icon of Indonesian manufacturing. Established in 1966, it grew into a dominant player, employing thousands and driving the economy of Indonesian province of Central Java. But its financial troubles reportedly caught up last October when it declared bankruptcy. According to reports, a crucial creditors meeting last Friday sealed its fate. The company's 3 main factories in the province reportedly shut down in phases, leaving workers in limbo. And now the Indonesian government is scrambling to provide relief. According to reports, Indonesia's manpower minister has said that affected workers will receive their unpaid wages, severance pay, and social security benefits, including retirement savings and job loss insurance. Officials are reportedly also trying to connect ex-employees with new job opportunities. According to reports, so far, the Indonesian government has identified over 10,000 vacancies in apparel, food and beverage industries. For many Indonesians, the closure of Shritex reportedly is the end of an era. A company that once stood as a pillar of Indonesian industry has fallen, leaving thousands of families uncertain about what lies ahead. While most might not know or even have heard of unconventional words, they seem to be on the fingertips of Pakistan's young Scrabble players, who are taking the country to new heights on the global stage. In Pakistan, Scrabble, often considered a sport to sharpen word skills, has gained a strong youth following thanks to the country's colonial-era connection to the English language. In fact, since the launch of the Youth World Scrabble Championship in 2006, Pakistani players have taken the center stage, producing more winners than any other country. And in recent days, Karachi, Pakistan's largest city, has emerged as a major hub for Scrabble talent, with schools offering specialized coaching and scholarships for top players and parents encouraging their children to master the game. Only at a recent Pakistan Scrabble Association tournament, in fact, around 100 young players competed, showcasing their knowledge of rare and complex words. But what's the process for these young champions like, really? While it differs from person to person, many agree that hard work is the key.
It requires a lot of hard work and determination, and you need to memorize words. There's a platform called Zaizwa, and you have to memorize words in it, from it, and it's a very hard process, and you have to trust the process for a very long time, and then gradually it will show the results.
Plus, it's a good way to enrich one's vocabulary, of course, as players practicing for the game get to learn about rare and lesser used words. And as for the players, feats like winning open doors for further opportunities that can give their dreams a real chance. You see, in Pakistan, English fluency is often associated with social mobility and professional success. And for nearly 26 million Pakistani children out of school, as per the year 2023 census, learning English continues to be aspirational. However, a word of advice from the practitioners to the beginners: Scrabble is not quite everyone's cup of tea, as it requires a great deal of resilience and unwavering determination. But the trick is to start simple with words easier to spell and then gradually build on that to arrive at complex and nuanced variants. It's World Wildlife Day, and on Monday morning, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi took a lion safari at Gujarat's Gir Sanctuary, home to the last Asiatic lions. Take a look. After 233 years on the British High Street, WH Smith's is preparing to sell all 500 of its high street stores. In fact, the retailer has been in talks with potential buyers since January, seeking to offload its struggling high street business. While the stores remain profitable, their growth has stalled. In contrast, WH Smith's travel retail division, operating in airports, train stations, hospitals, now generates 85% of the company's trading profit. Several investment firms and retail players, in fact, have expressed interest in acquiring WH Smith's high street stores. Bidders include private equity firms, Alteri and Modella Capital, as well as Hilco, the former owner of Homebase, and Doug Putman, who owns HMV. However, the WH Smith brand name is not part of the sale. Buyers will have a transition period to rebrand before they must stop using the name entirely. The high street arm currently employs around 5,000 people, leaving the future of these jobs uncertain as the sale process continues. WH Smith has transformed into a global travel retailer, now operating over 1,200 stores across 32 countries. In the UK alone, its travel retail business includes 600 stores in airports and rail stations. This segment has become the company's core focus, driving 3/4 of its total revenue. With high street sales stagnating, the company sees greater long-term potential in travel retail. Meanwhile, the timeline for the high street exit remains unclear as the centuries-old brand makes sense of the shifting consumer trends. The colorful Brazil Carnival is in full swing, from street parties to extravagant parades. Revelers in colorful outfits and makeup filled up the streets of Rio de Janeiro, even blending Afro-Brazilian and Indian spiritual traditions. Have a look. on that colorful note, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas Tonight. This is me, Molly Kampir, signing off. Thanks very much for watching. Leaving you with Gravitas Worldview. Take a look.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the development